Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, April the 16th. I am actually on the ferry, headed to Knott's Island, and I just thought Knott's Island to go to Knott's Island Elementary. My good friend and my first grade buddy Jennifer Roche and I are co-presenting at the Board of Education meeting tonight for Currituck County Schools. Knott's Island Elementary is the spotlight school this month, and Kevin Goins asked us if we would present the CPB. This is year 4 of collaborating with Knott's Island Elementary, and it really is the CPB home for me. It's where the roots, where the project was first birthed, and where it grew. We've expanded into other schools now, but this will always be first home and hold a special place in this whole project. So I thought it would be apropos for many reasons to make this video here from the ferry ride. I'm so glad that I got here. And just for those that are not familiar with the area, let me show you a little bit. If you can see out the windows, we've just left, right? So the mainland is over here. It ends up being about a 45-minute ride. It's a little bit longer. It's longer if you go by land, if you drive it. I'll have to drive back. But I want to show you, for those of you not familiar with this area, here's our school bus. So a lot of our kids, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but the kids that live on Knott's Island and that go to the middle school, they come over to the mainland and to the high school, or to JP Knapp, so Currituck County High School or JP Knapp. And if they live on Knott's Island, they take the ferry across on the bus, unless they drive across. If there are days, for example, when the wind is too much or something's reason the ferry's not running, the bus has to go all the way around. And so what ends up happening, our bus actually has to drive up. You have to go into Virginia. On 168, you head north, because Currituck, North Carolina, the North Carolina-Virginia line is at the top of Currituck County. You have to cross over into Virginia and go back roads and then kind of come back down to Knott's Island. So the only way via land is through Virginia to get to Knott's Island. So it's a unique situation, I guess, fairly unique. As far as North Carolina goes, in terms of some of our kids and how they get to school. So if you live on the island, the first through 5th grade, you're actually at Knott's Island Elementary, so that school is located on it. And I call it the little school with the big heart, the biggest heart. It is a phenomenal place. I'm really excited and just honored to be able to spotlight the phenomenal work going on there in that building, and to be invited that we've been able to be a part of it, a special collaboration for 4 years now. Anyway, I will share too that information, the presentation we make. We put together a slideshow of photographs, and we'll be talking. So I'll be happy to share that on my vlog, on my blog, I should say, Rooted in Love, and put that, including the excerpt from the Board of Ed meeting as well. So we've got Jennifer and I are presenting, and then we've got one of my high school students who participated in this last year and is with me again this year as a senior. She's in AP Lit. She was in AP Lang last year. Naomi is sharing, and then one of the 3rd graders who presented or was part of the 1st grade 2 years ago is sharing as well, and bringing her book that her senior then presented. So I'll definitely share that when that becomes available. But I thought I would use a few minutes here on the ferry. Well, actually I said 45 minutes, but thought it would be some good time to talk about a particular children's picture book that I've had in my classroom library. And to be honest with you, I can't tell you where I acquired this book. I don't have any recall of buying this, and some of the books have come to me, gifted to me, of sometimes, being a high school teacher, the one that does that has children's picture books, they sometimes end up in my room. Kids will bring them in sometimes. I've got a pretty extensive library, particularly for a high school English teacher, of children's picture books. So, but let me go ahead and show it. This is is the book that I want to talk about today, because I've had it for many, many years. Redneck Night Before Christmas, and it was written by Daniel Davis and illustrated by James Rice. And actually, I think at some point that it may have come into the classroom, because when I taught, I only taught for a couple of years in American Lit class, juniors. It just was not my cup of tea. And I had them do some parody writing, and we talked about local color and that kind of thing. So it may have come in via that route, not via directly the CPB route. But anyway, I've got it in the classroom with a lot and been looking at it, and the reason it kind of came up, I was thinking about it and went and pulled it, was the other day. I can't remember, I didn't hear everything, but something was said in my first bell about the term redneck. And my inclusion teacher made the comment to the student. She said, "That's really disrespectful." And I was kind of surprised. And so the student was like, "Well, I never really understood where does the term originate?" And so the inclusion teacher was talking about, the redneck farmers working out, and a lot of times their necks would get red, and that's part of the lore as far as where that term originated. But of course, that's one of those words now, that rhetoric, redneck, that can mean so many different things in so many different contexts to so many different audiences. And so I started thinking about that, and I thought, let me go pull that book, because this is the parody of The Night Before Christmas, told from a quote redneck, told from a redneck style. It's a parody, but the way that this kind of thing was viewed even as 20 years ago is very different from the way that it's viewed today, I should say, at least to some people. And so I started thinking about it. So I'm going to show you a few pages, and then talk about questions that it's raising for me, and then I think questions that it could be a good exploration for my students to really have a good discussion. And I'm thinking in particular about AP language and composition, because our focus is on rhetoric. So even though this is quote fiction, I think it would be worthy of some of the questions that it raises. So look at the title page. Now, it doesn't include the author. It's just situated here. All right. So the title page. So right off the bat, we've got, it raises some questions. And of course, with the, as it calls it, quote, the Southern flag, the Confederate flag is there. And I guess that's not really the title page. That was just I'm not sure what that page is called, the technical term. But here we go. Here's the title page, Redneck Night Before Christmas, and look here at the spread. And so he's taken off with his bag. So on his sack, the Santa character has the Confederate flag. Of course, in place of the reindeer are the hound dogs. It's interesting that he has a camouflage outfit on, his boots, okay, and then on his hat is Save the NRA. Okay, so it's one of those things. And then in addition to it, this was, by the way, the publication was 1997, okay, but the fourth printing came out in September 2003. Interestingly, too, this author, the dedication was to Laurel and Hardy, who first taught me how to laugh, and to my wife, Leanne, who sacrificed much so I could try to be funny. So I think, there's a lot to unpack with that dedication as well, in terms of the purpose. It's interesting. The summary says, presents a redneck twist on a well-known poem about an important Christmas visitor who arrives in a pickup truck accompanied by 8 hound dogs. The categorizations, or the tags in the Library of Congress, it would be cataloged under rednecks, juvenile poetry, Christmas, juvenile poetry, Santa Claus, juvenile poetry, children's poetry, American, Santa Claus poetry, Christmas poetry, American poetry. So actually I could see using this as well with my AP Literature and Composition, because they're writing their CP books that have to address poetry in some way. But there would be some more parameters, I think, that would have to be set to use this in any way. Look here at this where the story starts, the Red Night Before Christmas. So we see, the jeans. Look at the TV. It looks like it's cracked. The wife is here in her, nightgown. She's holding the coffee. We've got the dogs, the hunting and fishing. I'm not sure what that is that he's holding. Something that he's caught. But he's shot. And this, look right here. The Rugrats was out cold in their feather beds. There'd been a big tussle and they'd skinned up their head. So we've got, it looks like in this bed, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we've got 5 kids in one bed. What appears to be, maybe that's a double bed, but I don't know. And then the dog's sleeping underneath, right? And we've got the mom here with the curlers. Notice the curlers, okay? What's interesting too, Ma smeared on her cold cream and I spit out my chews. We'd stayed up too late and we needed a snooze. So I'm like, okay, we got the whole chewing thing going on. We've got the stereotype here. Says, went out in the yard, I heard such a clamor. Thought the laws had come back to put me in the slammer. Away to a window, I went at a run. Poked a hole in the plastic and pointed my gun. So we've got the gun, the way of dealing with any kind of a noise and whatnot. And then here comes the pickup truck. But the bug light a shining on the new fallen snow gave the brightness of day to our pickups below. When what with my bloodshot old eyes did I see? A Ford load of dogs a coming at me. So I've got kids that are big on Ford. The nearest Ford plant's up in Norfolk. So there's always a big rivalry a lot with my students between Fords and Chevys. With a little old driver, I thought what the heck, it was without doubt the Christmas redneck. So we've got, in place of the sleigh, we've got the redneck pickup truck, right? A Ford in this case. And then we've got, here are the dogs, the hound dogs that came. He hollered and shouted and called them by name. Now Bugler, now Jughead, now Fiddler and Shepherd, on Yellow, on Smoky, on Blue Tick and Leopard. Okay, to the top of the steps, to the trailer's back wall, they crawled on everything, one and all. And at one point, they referred to it as the double wide. So I guess, and there's more in here, but we get over here where he gets inside, and we've even got go ahead, make my day on the back of his back. Of course, we've got the plumber's disease going here, and there's his knapsack, right? And it even says on the front of the cap, bless the NRA, which I had already said that. So I'm just sitting here I've been thinking about this kind of all day long and thinking, wow. So here are questions it raises for me, and I think that this would be one that would be an excellent one to have a Paideia seminar. And some of the questions that I would raise would be not to just the general issue of, okay, this is outdated, right? I mean, this is a different time period. How should we view this today? Should this be used today? And if so, how? And let the kids really kind of talk about that. So where I live, Currituck has a very rich heritage of duck hunting, crabbing, fishing. That is still very much the county. The dynamics are changing as development and more people move in, but that is the local and the long-standing heritage. We have a lot of Currituck is an Algonquin word that means land of the wild goose. And so the history of Currituck is a lot of duck hunting, even lodges and groups coming in. In fact, right down the road from me where I live, literally 4 houses down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4 houses down is a hunting lodge. So during duck season, there are groups coming in, and they've got guides. The guides, of course, are the locals and run the lodge, own and run the lodge. So I wake up in the mornings during duck season to the sound of shotguns going off. I mean, there are duck blinds all out in the sound on both sides of I'm on a point. So it's part of the environment. The idea of the shotguns, when I first moved here, it bothered me, but I quickly got used to me, and it doesn't bother me anymore, that sound. I mean, I awaken to it, but I know what it is, so I'm able to go back to sleep with it, believe it or not. But so I understand and I value and appreciate that heritage of hunting, fishing. It's not my own personal heritage, but I certainly have benefited from it, and I have a lot of students that come from that background, that tradition, and it affects everything. It's not just their leisure time, like even their culture, their menus, what they're eating, their food, their holidays, that kind of thing, how they spend their time, and some make their living, although that's become harder and harder to do through the years. But this really makes me think of single stories. I do typically do danger of a single story, and we talk about that and what that means. The idea of stereotypes, single stories. Are we more than this? And I guess some of the things that kind of stick out, I don't know. I didn't need to look to see where David Davis is from. I'd have to look here and see. It says David Davis studied fine art at Stephen F. Austin University in Texas. He's a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, and he's written Trekker's Night Before Christmas, Nurse's Night Before Christmas. Trying to see if it says anything else. So I'm assuming, that he's a Texan. Okay, and I know that parody it kind of helps establish the parameters, right? So this is parody, but is there a line? Where is the line? Is the line the same in every text that you look at? These are the questions that we would explore. We would talk about audience in a seminar. So I just think that this is rich for meaningful seminar and discussion. You'd have to know your students, your audience. You'd have to understand, they need to understand and be comfortable with, the seminar or whatever vehicle you have for those kinds of discussions. A seminar is different than a discussion, and I make it pointedly, I distinguish it so that students understand the difference and the purposes. I would see this more as a seminar because I wouldn't want to do a debate. I'm not saying that a debate is wrong, but I wouldn't approach this with a debate, because what I find with debates, and I enjoy doing debates, but a lot of times they lead to black and white, not, it's either this or that. There's right and wrong, and there's no gray area. There's not room for complexity and down the middle. And whereas in a seminar, it's about qualifying, supporting the way that you're seeing things, asking questions, not about winning an argument. So, depending on how you want to set this up, I just probably would not do the debate on this. But I'm thinking about other pieces that I would want them to have exposure to, concepts that we had talked about. Should we have empathy for this artist and this writer? Would there be any time and occasion where this would be appropriate or not? What does, of course, dive into the problematic issue with the Confederate flag and what that means. So it would be important to look at some history with that. And so I would say know your students really well before you dive into this. But I'm intrigued. I think I will very soon do another vlog on a book that I picked up for like $1 somewhere. And it's called A Chinese Zoo, and kind of examine the issue of is there appropriation going on with it, with the art and stuff. And so kind of looking at these things and purposes and thinking about how this might serve a different one. So interesting. I I've always thought that instead of shying away from possibly controversial topics, is I don't want to always just approach it. You have to know your group, but I think sometimes coming in the back door and getting them to just like think about it, and have reasonable discussions. You have to be able to do that to approach it. But I'm reminded of the verse, and I'll post it. I think it's in the first chapter of Isaiah. It says, the part of the verse is, let us reason together. Let us reason together. And I love that. I love that the reason, let us talk about and think about and examine the logic, the logos, as well as the pathos. Let us reason together, not squared off where we can't talk, but the together is really, really important. So that's always kind of been my approach with topics. I don't want to do a topic just to do a topic just because it's controversial. But if it benefits, it's something that my students are hearing or seeing or looking at, thinking about themselves, how they would feel about it, and how to talk about it. I think there's way too much yelling and screaming, not enough listening. And I, vlogged about that yesterday with the children's picture book. That we're so busy, the world is so much with us, that's why it helps to get out sometimes in nature and get a break and be quiet and listen and see what can happen. But I do think that we need to teach students to think about, reason, listen. And that doesn't mean you have to change your view or your opponent. I think it's Aristotle. Is it Aristotle? I think it's Aristotle that said the mark of, I'm paraphrasing here, but the mark of an educated mind is one that can consider different ideas and not be threatened. Come up with their own, it's okay to consider different ideas, different opinions. You don't have to change your opinion, but that you can actually entertain an idea and think about it without necessarily having to adopt it. So these are days and weeks and months and years with a lot going on in North Carolina, in the United States, with political, not just at the national level, even at the states and the local levels, and people don't always see eye to eye. So how should we then live? How do we interact? It's interesting. I'm trying to think, I think it was in my fourth bell. Or maybe I can't remember what class it was in, but we were talking about the idea that we are not designed to live in isolation. People need people. We need connections. And it seems easier to disconnect now from people more than ever. I guess that's the irony, is we're more connected in terms of the technology and on our social media, but we're more disconnected, or it seems that way, than I can remember at any other time in my life. And I think it's tempting to want to disconnect, and I guess that's part of what keeps me in this profession, is that I still have a desire and a heart to teach and to work with kids. I still love that. I'm just as passionate about that as I was when I started off. I like having autonomy and freedom and support to do it in a way that's sensitive, that meets the needs of students, engages them, piques their interest so they want to be engaged, because I think there's still a lot to offer and a lot to have them think about and consider. So anyway, about halfway through the ride here, I'll give you one more view before I end the video. You can see what a beautiful ride, right? What a beautiful ride. Yep. This is my home. Thank you. Be blessed.